Hey everyone, welcome to Culture Binge, where we feast on culture, we feast on the zeitgeist, and we regurgitate it lovingly for all of you. I'm your host, Alec. I am joined here by Wisecrack researcher Serby,
Hi.
and again, a very special guest, Dr. Hot and Sweaty himself, Michael Burns. PhD, he's a philosopher, everyone. High five for
Yay!
philosophers.
High five for all the philosophers out there collecting unemployment.
We got a great show for everyone today. We're going to be talking about fake photos circulating of the Amazon forest fires. We're going to be talking about Weight Watchers for kids, and then we're going to talk about astrology. But before we get into all that, I want to thank everyone. We asked some of you to take a survey. Many of you did. A lot of you did. It was really awesome. You put in topic suggestions there that we are looking at, have looked at, will continue to look at. There's a lot of great stuff in there. But anyway, it is now time, before we get into the conversation, for the most terribly named segment of all, Slaps and Chaps. What slaps this week? What's going well? And what chaps your ass? What's annoying you? Let's start with Serby.
Okay, so what chaps? Marriott announced that it will stop providing those mini bottles of shampoo and conditioner by December 2020. And I'm the type of person who hoards all of those. So I'm really disappointed. They're going to give these like large bottles now, and it will be the equivalent of 20 mini toiletry bottles. So I can no longer steal them. It's chapping really hard.
Yeah, but it all anyway. Yeah, I think they suck anyway. So I feel like they're doing you a favor.
Wait, so they're putting in big, like, normal size bottles or sort of like a installed dispenser?
I've seen installed stuff.
Installed, but they're large.
Okay.
So it's like a normal size, but it's
Not
like
stealable.
glued.
You'll just have to go to the robes.
Yeah, they're tamper proof. I've already figured that out. And then what slaps? So I read this inspiring story about this man named James Hatch. He's a 52-year-old retired Navy SEAL, and he's a freshman at Yale. So, yeah, it's really cool. He joined the military straight out of high school and spent the next like 20-some years in the military. And then he's been like a speaker. He wrote a book and doing all this stuff. And then he decided to go back to school. So he's in the Directed Studies program, which teaches students how to analyze great texts and write persuasive essays through courses in philosophy, literature, and historical and political thought. So obviously we need him to come work at Wisecrack. Yeah. But also, I just think it's so cool that he's 52, and he decided to go back to school. So you're never too old for a new adventure.
Hashtag life goals. I aspire to do that, but I'll probably just end up playing video games for 18 hours a day when I'm retired. Anyway, what's going on with you, Michael Burns?
Oh, not much. Just thinking about how maybe when I'm 52, I'll do the opposite and become a Navy SEAL. But in the meantime, what slaps is... Wow, now that we're 3 episodes in, I can say this. Righteous Gemstones on HBO is a TV show that slaps that I think everyone should watch. It's very funny, very artful. I love it so much. Have y'all watched it?
I have not, but I really want to. For anyone who doesn't know, it's like Danny McBride. Who's the person who makes that? They've made Eastbound and Down Vice Principals.
And Jody Hill.
Jody Hill.
And there might be a third person who's in their little gang that makes this stuff.
So Jody Hill, who is the other person?
Danny McBride.
Danny McBride, yeah. Mm-hmm. So Eastbound Down is one of my favorite shows. Also, I think it's one of the few shows that me and Jared really bond over. That and Network. Aww. That's just like amazing. That and Vice Principals.
Yeah.
But I'm super psyched, and I love what's his face,
Walton Goggins. Who?
No, I was gonna say Walter from The Big Lebowski, and his name is
John Goodman.
John Goodman. That's the name that I should know. Anyway.
No, it's just awesome. It's so good. And it's
awesome.
Funny. It's smart. It's satirical in all the right ways. It adds some fun crime elements. Everyone should watch it. And in terms of chaps, I don't know if you all heard this. Taco Bell announced that they're removing 9 items from their menu.
No.
I think it's at least 9. One of the ones they're removing, I think it's a horrible misstep for their company, and if they fail, I won't feel bad for them. They are removing the double-decker taco from Taco Bell menus. It's something that's been
my favorite.
Oh, I think it's I would, on some days I'd argue it's the best fast food item on any menu in America. It's been around since I feel like 10, 11, 12. So I'm sad to see that go, and I think it's a big misstep because you don't need extra preparatory items to create a double-decker taco. It's made of things that are already on your line at Taco Bell. So I think they're making a big mistake with this one, and it has me a little bit upset.
For anyone who complained, I've mentioned this before. For anyone who complained in our Bo Burnham video that what they assumed was Taco Bell product placement, that was just Mike Burns and I, who literally had Taco Bell last night, really going all in on our love for Taco Bell.
It made me so sad when everyone in the comments was like, "Oh, what obvious product placement!" And I was like, "No, Taco Bell's just fun to talk about. I don't want to write secret sponsored content. I just want to talk about things I love, like Bo Burnham and Taco Bell."
Send us love letters to is it Culture Binge at wisecrack.co, your love letters to Taco Bell products. I can read them. Wow, what a tragedy. For me, I'll keep it negative. What chaps my ass. I just finished I'm very late to the game, the latest season of Stranger Things. It did not compare to the other ones, and I think Hopper's character sucks. I'm not going to spoil it for people, but I'm very disappointed, and I'm going to get hate mail.
But isn't that what everyone thinks? 'Cause I haven't watched it because everyone says what you're saying.
Oh, maybe.
So I feel like you're not going to get hate mail. I feel like you're on the right side of history here.
Well, that's all that matters.
I've never seen Stranger Things. Is that the one with the kids who do like creepy things?
They don't do creepy things. They get tortured by. Yeah, it's like a lot of horrible trauma happening to kids, but they're like supernatural monsters that are causing the trauma, so it feels a little more consumable. But yeah, a kid gets trapped in a hell world for a season.
Sad.
Yeah.
But hey.
Anyway, as far as slaps, I've been talking about a lot. Our Medium publication, medium.com/wisecrack. The first month, August, it got 100,000 views, which is awesome, and I'm very happy. And a lot of cool stuff happening, being written by Thomas Ambrosini, Amanda Shirker, lots of other people. I wrote a thing that constituted 1/100th of the total views, so I can't take too much credit. But yeah, go check that out. And Mike Burns, when are you going to write a Medium article?
Oh, on the spot. I promise. As soon as I have time to write one, I'll pitch you. I promise.
All right. So we're going to get into the Amazon rainforest photos, rainforest fire photos. Quick shout, Dude Abides, again, always donating $5. Thank you very much. He wants to know what we think of Popeye's chicken sandwiches.
Wait, have either of you tried it?
No.
Oh.
Have you?
I tried to go 3 times last week or the week before, and the both locations I went did not have them.
Were they sold out, or didn't have them?
One didn't have, one was sold out, and had like a handwritten sign that looked like a ransom note in the window that was like, "Please don't ask me about the sandwich."
I saw an article. It's the thing that I find interesting is that I saw an article. There was some Twitter beef. We've talked a lot about fake social media brand beefs between Popeyes and someone. I don't even remember, but like that beef caused this thing. But really what's happening is Popeyes is understaffed and people are like threatening and harassing them for running out, much like Szechuan sauce. So fuck those people. And there's a lot of interesting stories around this chicken craze. But yeah, that's what I got on that.
I think somebody sued Popeyes for not having the chicken sandwich. And I'm like, wow, I wish I had like expendable income like that where I could just start suing people for random things.
Yeah,
they probably don't have expendable income. They probably like stole their lawyer's letterhead and typed up a note that makes no sense.
Like, at least in one case, someone straight up like came in at gunpoint because they didn't have the chicken sandwich and like,
oh no,
yeah, pointed a gun at employees. It's gone so out of hand. And no matter how good it is, there's no universe where it's that good. There's like no universe where it's that good where you couldn't just get a Wendy's or a Chick-fil-A sandwich and call it a day until they restock.
I have a conspiracy theory.
Do it.
They planted that gunman to make it seem like the sandwich was better than it was. He's a patsy, or she.
I mean, I'm very sure that they intentionally went real scarce on this thing to create an insane amount of demand, because as soon as they have them back, it's going to be an absolute hellhole at any Popeyes in America. I can't imagine wanting to go.
Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about something far more horrifying. The Amazon rainforest is on fire, everyone. So I'm going to talk about photos and tragedy, how they interact, how there's fake photos going around. But I just want to give some people some background on the Amazon rainforest fires. They're a very big deal. Thousands of fires are currently burning in the Amazon still, and it's mostly believed to be the result of farmers who are clearing land to grow soybeans and other crops. So they're clearing land to raise those crops. But a day ago, an article in The Independent said that 4,000 new fires were started across Brazil in 48 hours after the government had banned the deliberate burning of the Amazon. People are blaming the Brazilian president for kind of encouraging this. He's very sort of agriculture friendly, et cetera, et cetera. But there are photos going around, and if Mitch, we could pull one up. A lot of the photos going, so a lot of tweets from famous actors, Leonardo DiCaprio, even like rainforest foundations, and this is just one of them, showing pictures of the fire that are not of either of the rainforest, Amazon rainforest burning just at another time. So the one on the top left, and if you do we have the full size one, the one on the top left? Yeah. So for anyone listening, it's a ring of fire kind of expanding into lush green forest, and behind it is just like a black mass of burning, smoldering smoke. And it's horrifying. And Logan Paul tweeted it saying, "What can I do?" Because I'm sure there was a lot of maybe dead people in there he can make fun of. But so this photo is of the Amazon rainforest, but from 1989. So not the current one. Other photos, and if we just want to scroll through those while I'm talking about this, have come from Montana, Sweden, and India, all real fires, just not them. And even the Rainforest Trust tweeted a fake photo. And so I think my immediate question is, before I even talk about kind of our visual centrism, I'll call it, is who does this? Like, I understand seeing a photo and thinking it's real and sharing it. I'm not even hating on those people. We all don't necessarily have the time to vet every single photo that comes on, and we're like, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio tweeted, I guess it's real. But who's the original person who's trying to spread awareness about forest fires in the Amazon and says, oh man, let me just like take this totally separate thing? And similar things have happened in the Syrian conflict, for instance. So photos of like dead fathers holding their children, but they weren't in the Syria conflict. They were taken in Iraq or Gaza. So yeah, who's doing this?
Laziness.
Yeah.
Lazy
you think it's
people.
laziness?
Well,
you don't think it's like intentional propaganda?
Is it neither? Is it someone who just wants the first post and they want social media clout at any cost? So they quickly Google image search Amazon fire, copy the first image they see, and try to get their tweet off before anyone else does to get the most attention?
I think that's a scenario. So I think that's scenario A. I think scenario B is someone who wants to spread an awareness, but they look for photos and they're either not publicly available or they're copyrighted. They're worried about getting sued. So they're like, oh, let me find a public domain photo. Well, this picture of Montana is pretty much the same thing, which seems a little more evil. I don't know.
But maybe it's not evil. Maybe they have good intentions. They just don't know any better. Like if they find a picture and they're like, oh, this is the Amazon rainforest. It says the caption. So then they share it and then other people share it. So maybe it started off okay, but they just didn't like do research.
Yeah. But the bigger point that I wanted to get to is I think a lot of our news consumption is very kind of photocentric in a way that I would like to discuss and talk about. So Michael Burns, you might have heard this, and please tell me if I'm butchering the concept, but a word called ocular centrism. It just means eye and centrism. But more or less that we put the eye and vision above all of other senses, smell, touch, other things. So it's kind of, and this applies to video as well, unless we don't see it, it feels less real. And I think this is kind of an outcome of that, in that the rainforest is burning. It's a huge deal. But to really convey that to people, they need to see something specifically horrifying. You can't necessarily describe how horrifying it is. And it's not even a proper tragedy unless it looks tragic. So, for instance, there's other things that happen, like when ecosystems get disrupted or destroyed by invasive species, the picture just isn't as fun, for lack of a better word, as a horrifying massive blaze. There's also like tons of complicated tragedies out there with lots of different actors that aren't always visible or hard to visualize. And so unless we can find a visual symbol like a parent holding a dead child or a tap water bursting into flames, then it kind of doesn't exist to us. And I think this is just like a constant, I don't want to say bias, but like a bias in the news towards of like going to what is most visually compelling rather than like what's most important. And again, this is important, but I think it's driving people to share fake shit all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something online, and maybe this is fake too, so I'm just participating in this evil cycle. But it talked about how even like the news coverage of Notre Dame when that was on fire in France was way more covered than the Amazon fires. Because the image was like so much more iconic, readily available, because there's tons of people in Paris that had cameras and stuff that were ready to go. And also makes me think too, has anyone read or checked out this book, The Uninhabitable Earth by, I guess like his name is David Wallace Wells, but I always want to say Foster Wallace, but he's dead. But in the book he talks about like the ocular fixation in relationship to like climate disaster, and how so much of it is so like slow moving that we don't get like the one frame picture that shows us how horrible it is, so that no one really gives a crap. Right. So we kind of uses the same logic you're bringing up there to say like this is why stuff won't happen in response to that tragedy, because we don't have like one nice shot of it. And maybe the Amazon fire is one of the like rare examples of a simple picture someone can use to argue for the importance of like the climate.
Yeah.
This reminds me of those sad puppy commercials that like Sarah McLachlan, I think, is in. It's like, oh, nobody wants to read a story about sad puppies, but if you show like dying dogs, then dogs wants to donate money.
Yeah, and I think I've brought this up before. It's an overall, there's kind of a related problem in charity in general, and I'll just loosely put it as like the ideal victim, which I think is happening with the rainforest, and that people are also spreading, probably not deliberately, like misinformation about the rainforest. To like, the rainforest is super important, it should be burning, but they'll say things like 20% of our oxygen comes from the rainforest. That's not true. It like does other important things, and the like biodiversity is like amazing, and people will say like it's useful for science and, you know, helps protect against climate change and like XYZ, but like, is it that if it didn't do those things, which like fuck it, like just knock it all down, but similarly, like whether it's like dying puppies make like a great image, or sad puppies because we don't want to see it. But there are also animals that are less cute that I would argue are equally as worthy of saving. Or even when it comes to like GoFundMes and people with sort of visible, I think people with either good narratives, good compelling narratives, or like visible disease, I'll put it, probably do better than those with illnesses that either aren't as easy to narrativize or easy to visualize. I mean, this is like a huge problem with people who have like certain mental problems, right? Like you don't really see it until it's too late. So the world sucks. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I think that analogy you just draw between like mental and physical health is so true. Because if someone could have like the most baseline broken wrist in a way that's not even that bad, but if they're wearing a cast, people will like hold the door open for them, be kind of nice, help you. I had this recently, like I broke my elbow this summer, and it wasn't that bad, but I had a sling, and people were really nice to me. But if you have like crippling clinical depression or something like that, or an anxiety disorder, you can even tell people in your life that, and they're like, I get it. I mean, I get sad sometimes too. And like no one cares because it's something you can't visualize. And I think that's so real, and my cynical brain says I don't think there's a way out of that.
Yeah. Isn't that isn't it called like invisible illnesses or something? And like people get mad about like individuals using those handicap parking. And if you have like a cane, like, they need that parking. But if you don't have anything like visibly wrong with you, people get angry and they're like, you should save that only for people who have like disabilities.
Yeah, I perversely love this topic because originally it was people were mad about people for abusing handicap parking stickers in a way that like, that's cool. I mean, it's cool to be mad at people for being shitty, but it just backfired, and people were just really shitty to people with disabilities that weren't super apparent. So I don't know why I like that story so much, but it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, but
Thank you to American Otter said, donate some money. The fake wildfire photos spread like wildfire. But I don't have much else to add unless any of you do. We can go on to the next topic.
Oh, one thing I did want to mention about the forest fires is that I read this article that the president of Brazil refused like $25 million in aid. He would accept it only if Macron, the prime minister of Canada,
France.
apologized. And not
France.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting Trudeau. Yeah, so France. If he apologized for insulting Brazil's like autonomy, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, you're gonna decline aid because of your pride?
Oh, sounds like someone I know. I can't put my finger on who.
There was one quote from the president of Brazil that was kind of amazing, where he said, like, well, you fucked up all your ecosystems. So, like, it's Brazil's job to protect or destroy their ecosystem. You fucked up your ecosystem, so don't be mad when we fuck up ours.
I mean,
and so I'm not going to go support the guy, but there was a kind of like,
a broken
slam dunk
clock
to that.
can be right. I mean,
anyway, let's talk about Weight Watchers. Serby.
Weight Watchers. So recently, Weight Watchers launched Kurbo, a weight loss app designed for children between the ages of 8 and 17. So Weight Watchers claims that 80% of children who use the app lose weight. Experts in psychology and nutrition have criticized the app, saying that it's a precursor to eating disorders. The app uses a traffic light system to divide food into categories. So green means these are the foods that you should eat a lot. Red, these are the foods that you should limit. So some of the foods that appear in the red group include avocados, nuts, whole milk, yogurt, and olive oil.
Because they're high in fat?
Because they're high in fat. But the American Academy of Pediatrics classifies these foods as healthy fats and an essential nutrient that supplies energy or calories that children need in order to grow and engage in active play. So everyone from parents and doctors to psychologists says that this app sends the wrong message to children and can encourage them to develop an unhealthy relationship with food. So one of the worst parts of this app is that it includes a section of success stories, and it features before and after pictures of children as young as 8, and it features their weight loss and talks about their testimonials. What are your thoughts?
Did nobody tell them this was a bad idea?
Well, it's important to note that Weight Watchers did a rebrand last year. They're now called WW. And the company's new focus is on wellness, not just weight and dieting.
Which would be cool if it were, but I mean, I think the big criticism of this, like, it's cool to encourage kids to be healthy, to eat better, to exercise, all that stuff. But it's literally like, did you lose weight or not? That's what the app is saying. Like, you could have like done, that's
the problem with the weight thing, right? Like if there was stories where it was like, Tyler used to sit inside all day and wasn't active. Now Tyler is on the hockey team. Like that's a cool before and after story, maybe if like it's about someone getting healthy and active. But if it's like, here's Tyler's rockin' beach bod, then no. So I have a question. Do you think it would be good if, so when you first started describing it, I was like, this doesn't sound so bad until you got to the avocado and milk and yogurt thing. I mean, do we think it would be good if there was an app that simply made like a game out of these are good foods, these are bad foods, and like it was a more accurate depiction of those things and trained kids' brains to like healthy stuff? Like, would we think that is good, or is that still
I feel much? Like so as a 30-year-old, my body is rapidly disintegrating. So I have to like be healthier to combat that. And it's not generally related to weight, but like eating healthier. And there are people in my life who are dealing with shit where they also have to be healthier. And I feel in my mind, it's not like, hey, you did a bad thing, don't do the bad thing, like fucking eat some broccoli. It's, hey, here's a really like cool roasted broccoli dish and it's going to be awesome and you're going to be full and you don't have to be ashamed or like, God damn it, why don't I just have pasta? I think the way we think about diet in this country is so fucking stupid, and also often formed by like different competing lobbies, like the sugar lobby or like the poultry lobby, all like funding research about like blaming the other thing for what's wrong with us. And even like just the idea that like weight can often be correlated to like lots of different health problems, but it's way more correlated to specific things like sugar intake or saturated fat intake, and or like low in cholesterol is related to like the good kind of cholesterol, the good kind of fat, which like avocado's full of. So I hate everything. But sorry, what was the original question, Serby?
So Michael's question was, what if we just had a game that taught children like this is a good food, this is a bad food?
Yeah, I think the game would be making good food with vegetables. I don't know. Like that's the game. Sorry, that was what I was trying to get at.
I think that a game wouldn't really help. I think we need to teach children that it's good to have a balanced diet. Like you can have sweets and cupcakes and things, but the majority of your diet should be filled with nutritious food. And I think that like sorting things into like green and red and yellow, it doesn't help kids understand that concept that you can have days where you like eat like poor food, but like you should try to have a balanced diet. And I think the biggest problem is that it seems like if a parent lets their child download this app, it's like a way for the parent to step back and not take responsibility. So I think that parents should be at the forefront of instilling good eating, healthy eating habits in their children. So rather than have an app teach your kid like what's good and what's bad, it should be about a parent teaching them like this is what's good, this is what's bad.
Yeah.
This is how you have an active lifestyle in order to have a healthy life.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about this, and they were just like, the shifting of blame is weird because when you're a kid, 90% of the things you eat are chosen by somebody else. And like I was even watching an episode of Queer Eye where like the father had never cooked a meal for their kids and they ate like takeout every day. Like don't send that kid to Weight. Like the father was trying to get better. Like he learned to cook on the show is magical. But the solution isn't to send those kids to Weight Watchers if they get like overweight or unhealthy. The solution is for that father to be like, hooray, I'm cooking for you.
Yeah, and this whole notion of weight loss being introduced to children just sounds, it's so problematic because like you pointed out earlier, Alec, once we hit our 30s, that's all we are going to think about until we die is like eating the right stuff, losing weight, being healthy. And I just think like out of all the things a child has to worry about, even giving them that framework through which to evaluate themselves and their bodies at such a young age sucks so hard. Like, because being a kid already sucks too. Like, you know, you're a kid, you have acne, you had to wear growth spurt, your voice sounds weird. I don't know, you don't get to wear cool clothes or something like that. Your mom gave you a dumb haircut. And then you also have to worry about like your BMI and if you can, you know, be skinny enough according to pictures on an app. Like, that sucks.
Yeah. I also saw there was a lot of tweets just about people who had dealt with Weight Watchers as children and their horrible relationship to food now. So Alex Goldman, who's the host of a great podcast called Reply All, was essentially like, yeah, this like fucked me up as an adult forever. It just seems bad.
Is Weight Watchers bad in general?
Well, so I know some people, adults who do Weight Watchers, and so the thing that is good about Weight Watchers is that in psychology in general, when you record your behavior to modify your behavior, it's just like shown to work, right? So if you want to stop smoking and you're like recording on a piece of paper how much you smoke so you can't lie to yourself, that's fine. So like if you're trying to cut down on like fried foods or whatever, or just unhealthy foods or even the amount of food you're eating, yeah, it's like great. And I know it's worked for people, but also I know I'll just describe them as a boomer that I'm related to that had a heart attack, is eating all these unhealthy foods because things like Weight Watchers taught them that carbohydrates are evil. And they're not the greatest thing, but pasta, the noodle is not going to clog your arteries where all the other things they're eating are. And they just refuse to understand that. So I think, when you're rating a food just on points, like there's 3 points, there's 2 points, and I can have 13 points a day or 15 points a day, it doesn't talk about the more complicated way that nutrition works with monounsaturated fats and saturated fats and, the exercise component, because exercise is dope and makes you feel good. Like, yeah. All right. Anything else to add, or should we move on to astrology?
I don't know.
To astrology.
I'm reading my cards, and I think it's time to head towards the astrological discussion.
I can't tell if you're sad about what we just talked about, Serby, or you're sad about astrology.
I'm sad about what we just talked about. It just makes me I get really angry about things like when adults purposefully act in ways that harm children and can cause lifelong detrimental effects. Like, that really upsets me. And I feel like we're now like using technology in a way that can have long-term negative effects on children. And like an 8-year-old gets their food from their parent. So if you want to teach your 8-year-old to not eat poorly, how about you cook for them? Like, how about you don't buy shitty food? So that's what makes me mad.
Yeah,
that's legit.
Agreed. Well, on the lighter side, is it lighter? We're going to talk about astrology.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to bring this up. I want to preface everything I'm going to say with this. If anyone is listening, watching, whatever, and astrology has helped you in your life in any way, shape, or form, I do not intend to shit on that at all. I have I have a cynicism about this that might come through, but that's my issue. That's not your issue. I just wanted to say that. Is that okay?
I want to pre-disagree, but anyway, go ahead.
Okay, you should pre-disagree. I'm just trying to listen. I'm trying to grow into a better person. It's positivity has been my theme of summer 2019. It's going poorly. Okay, so astrology. Like in the past year, there's been a number of think pieces on astrology. And I guess like the Numbers Show since 2017, all the websites that have a lot of astrology stuff on it have been popping, like the sections on like Bustle and Cosmo and all these other lifestyle websites have grown a lot. And then I don't know, have you all used this app, The Pattern?
No. What is that?
So there's an app. It's really popular. If anyone doesn't know what it is, you should just look up the video on Twitter of Channing Tatum discovering this app. It's one of the best things I've seen on Twitter in the past few months. He like gets really mad and yells because he's scared that the app knows too much about him. But it's an app that you put in. This app is the reason why tons of mothers across the country got these texts that said, "Mom, what time was I born?" Because on the app you put in your birthday and like, year and everything. And then you need to tell them pretty specifically when you were born. So I downloaded the app and I asked my mom and she was like, I was kind of busy that day giving birth for 10 hours or whatever. But either way, astrology, it's common. We hear a lot of this. And I think mysticism or sort of pseudo-mysticism in general, like I know in LA at least, every third person I meet will be like, oh yeah, I read tarot and like I'm also a freelance editor and I do a tarot reading service and I bartend on Thursdays. So like, yeah. It's a big thing, and my general attitude towards it, and this is where I might offend, I don't want to, is that obviously it's boring to say that it's not real science, because of course it's not real science, and there's no correlation between like where planets are and how your moods are. But I'm curious about what we think like the root cause of this is, because the very vague thing that comes up in every think piece is like, people are sad and alienated and experiencing economic and social anxiety. And
it's like every episode of this podcast.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like it's another thing with like every other topic. But I guess like I feel like it's one of those things that people are very defensive about in a way they might not be about some of the other coping mechanisms we use to deal with the alienation society has wrought upon all of our weary souls. And then I wonder as well, and this is, I didn't know this until the other day, Adorno wrote a big thing about astrology because he read all of the horoscope columns in the LA Times. I think it was in like either the 30s or 40s. No,
so
1952.
For anyone who doesn't know, Theodor Adorno is a very cranky philosopher from Germany who escaped these people called the Nazis. And I think immediately moved to LA and got to America and was kind of like, fuck this place.
Yeah. So
he was like, he wrote this thing called The Culture Industry, and not in a good way, just about how Hollywood mass produces culture in a way that is bad for art. He also hated jazz and had some bad opinions. But cool
Yeah.
guy sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, so his take on, after reading all of the horoscopes and stuff in the LA Times, I want to say it's 1952, but I'm probably wrong, so don't quote me on that. But one of his big takes was that it produces passivity in people, and he thought it was basically preparing people for totalitarianism.
He thought a lot of people.
Yeah,
thought a lot of
basically
things
everything,
were
like, oh, you're eating
jazz,
popcorn.
preparing people for totalitarianism.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, I'm like not a big Adorno guy, but reading that I was like, yeah, because in the debate I always have with people that are really into astrology, it's like, I don't know, there's, if you want to go internal, there's like therapy and psychoanalysis, or all these mechanisms we have for getting to know yourself at a deeper level. There's politics or economic analysis if you want to understand the conditions of the world that make you feel like this. There's science. And I think the last thing I'll say before we all chat is I find it really weird too that we're in this era where like millennials especially are the generation who are the most like climate change, science, data, facts, it's real. Let's get away from like weird ideological stuff. And they're also like, I really want to stay in a relationship with you, but my Virgo season is changing and I don't think we're going to work out long term. And I don't get the compatibility of those two things, but maybe it's just because I'm a simpleton. What do you guys think?
I want to know what Serby thinks.
Say it.
You know what I think. I know somebody who, I can't talk about that. So I think that the reason why I think millennials are interested in this is that it feels very personal. Like it feels like this is unique to me. Like for anyone listening, I'm a Gemini Taurus. So it feels very like personal. Like this is about me. Like I'm a Gemini Taurus. So I think that millennials want something that's unique. They want something that like helps them identify with what's going on. And it seems fun, but there are people who like live and die by astrology. I know somebody who will say, my horoscope this month is terrible, so I can't make big decisions. Or they'll tell me, oh, well, you shouldn't make big decisions because your horoscope says this. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess it's harmless. So if people are into it, then that's great. It's just not for me.
I read a thing a while ago, and I wish I remembered what it was. Or I listened to a podcast. It's one of those two things. It was something on the internet. As far as the cause, it was saying historically, and it wasn't talking about astrology specifically, but spirituality often increases in times of like increased atheism. So that as people separate from churches, et cetera, they're like, let me check out like the supernatural, or let me check out healing crystals. And I think that is kind of the explanation, because I think a lot of millennials are not really into organized religion. The thing that I'll say is that I agree it seems harmless, but I would argue that it's just like a gateway drug. Like D&D is a gateway drug to Satanism. That's a joke. But it's like a gateway drug to woo-woo junk science in a way that does harm people when people start drinking magical mineral solution, aka diluted bleach, or not vaccinating their kids, or doing healing crystals instead of like getting chemotherapy or something. So like I think obviously I'm not saying everyone who like, some people, I know very intelligent people who are into their horoscope and just a fun thing. And I think part of it is kind of like the same thing as your personality type. It kind of narrativizes or like gives a script to your life that just, it's a crazy world out there. It makes a little bit of sense. But I think there's just the risk of going, because right, there is nothing scientific, even like just the idea of constellations in general, like they only make sense from the very specific angle that we look at stars, right? Those arrangement of stars do not exist in space because they're actually like millions of light years away from each other. It just kind of looks like that because of perspective and stuff.
There's no science. But I think the point you make, just to interject, one thing you said with all the woo-woo science, I think it also opens the door for grifters. Because like with this astrology thing, there's a huge industry around it, and a lot of people are making a lot of money off of it. And that's another thing that worries me with this and any type of like woo-woo stuff. So whether it's like a $19 juice or like repackaged vitamin C that's in like a hip looking package or whatever, the grifters love this stuff and they're cashing out on it.
Gwyneth Paltrow's anti-psychic vampire spray, which is a thing that actually exists on the internet. Everyone should Google it and ask what the fuck. Tons of grifters. Also, I just had the thought while you guys were talking that this logic of kind of just giving your life meaning is exactly the rationale behind flat Earth, and that like they don't want to believe that we exist in this like weird empty void of like not a, they want to believe that we're special, and I think that's kind of what this is.
Yeah. Feeling special is great though. And I think you're right, Survey, like their first point. It's like fun every time someone is like, "Oh, you're a blank." And then they like list off things, and in your brain it's like, "Oh my God, that's me. This is cool." And it makes you feel special, which is nice.
When I did online dating, there was this guy who asked me when my birthday was, and he was like, "Oh, you were born in November?" He's like, "I don't get along with you." And he's like, "Our personality types are incompatible." So he was like, will be our first and last date. And I'm like, all because I was born in November.
That's
like,
wild.
It's super wild. And also, going back to what you said about grifters, I had a manager who is really interested in astrology.
You don't have to do this, Survey.
I'm just going to share a little bit.
Do it.
So this manager, she pays this astrologist to send her personalized horoscopes every month. And so this astrologist will read the horoscope and then will counsel her clients like on what to do that month or like what to look out for. And so my manager had asked me what, like when I was born. So I told her, "Oh, I was born November, whatever. And like this time in this place." And so I have like this star chart with like all the quadrants of like my houses and whatnot. And so it was interesting to have that discussion. And it was like she really believed in this, that, you know, this is an important thing. I'm getting into a fight with this other department because this quadrant is like very tense right now. So she would like hold off on like major conversations with other teams. It was interesting.
Wow. That's a lot.
If I really fuck up something on Wisecrack, can I just message you and be like, what kind of astrological excuse do I have this week?
There's always an excuse for that. Wait, do you all think, random quick thought popped in my head, do we think that the reason that astrology is so popular is the same reason that things like 23andMe are popular? That we want like me? Okay, that's all. Because it just seems like a version of the same thing.
Observation, yeah.
Because people get that and they're like, "Oh my God, I found out I'm 30% Italian. You know what? I've always loved chicken parm." And it's like, no, you just like chicken parm because it's delicious. It doesn't matter that 4 generations back there was someone named Giuseppe in your family tree. Yeah.
I have a funny story about that. I mean, I think it's funny. So my friend's family they're all Italian, and one of her cousins is adopted from China. And so at these like big Italian get-togethers, her cousin, the Chinese cousin, will say things like, "Oh, well, you know how we Italians are." And we'll just like go on and on about how like as an Italian person. And I really love that she identifies as Italian, and it's more of like a nurture versus nature debate.
What's funny though is that like talking about what the like platonic ideal of an Italian is, if you go to like if you grab someone from Italy and they're like, "What do you think of Italian Americans?" They'd be like, "Oh, gross." That's not a statement against all. I'm talking the Jersey Shore types. Those
one of the original
like,
Jersey Shore cast members, I think, was like Peruvian, but just like it's the small one, Snooki. She's actually Peruvian, not like, biologically Italian, like that's a thing. But she proves that like if you embrace the culture embraces you back. And that's the most wonderful thing about the inclusivity of Italian American culture. And my big takeaway from this is no matter what sign you are, you're always welcome at the Olive Garden.
All right. I think that's a good place to end on this wonderful topic. Let's get into the
Yeah.
All right. So we just got a couple emails for you today. The first one is an email from Leon. We were talking about pedophilia. If pedophilia is not a thing you want to hear about right now, it's cool. See you next week. It's fine. So here's the email. Hi, I listened to the episode and have a couple things to say about the whole pedophilia issue. I hope you find them interesting. And just we were talking about Lost Girls is a comic by Alan Moore. and his wife about lots of like fantasy people, like Alice in Wonderland, etc., having sexual experiences. So whether or not a psychologist would have to report to the police. So let me just step back for a second. Sorry for everyone listening live. So this is about Leon wanted to make a correction about Jared was saying if someone was a pedophile, they couldn't even tell their therapist because the therapist would just call the police. So on that topic, Leon says whether or not a psychologist would have to report to the police if the patient presents these kinds of ideas. I study psychology, and last year in my internship, I guess you'd call it that. Not sure about the translation of practica professional. I think that's like professional practicum. They're from Colombia. I had a couple of patients who presented suicidal thoughts here in Colombia. I assume it's the same or very same in the US. I should report the person to social services if his life is in danger. But if I believe that the thoughts are just a symptom that can be treated in therapy, then I don't have to. If the patient or someone else is in danger for reasons that have less to do with the therapeutic process, then the situation is often reported. For example, domestic abuse or something like that. So topics of thoughts about pedophilia is just the middle between these two cases. On one hand, it can be a persistent thought that affects this person functioning and therefore should be treated in the therapeutic process. On the other hand, it can be a sign of danger for the people around this person and should be reported immediately. This is the complex decision that the psychologist would be forced to make. I used to be around a lot of therapists a lot, and not about pedophilia, but it was always kind of like this discussion about when someone has violent thoughts or whatever, where's that line, right? Because sometimes people just have compulsive thoughts that they never act on about violence or sex or lots of things. Or even if they're talking about feeling like they want to harm themselves, when does it reach the point that like, all right, I need someone to intervene? And so for some additional context, we also got another email. So this person's email is from Colombia, but the other email essentially said it's a similar thing in the United States. So Leon continues, I believe that the ideal future of the issue is to have people educated on both how profoundly damaging pedophilia is and how some people are vulnerable to those thoughts, but they can manage them through therapy. That's all. Thanks for the great content.
Oh, that's a
Thoughts?
tough one. I think that like, a very general thought is, I don't know, and maybe this is self-incriminating, not about pedophilia, but like, oh boy. No, but I think like there's a weird thing, right? Where I think everyone at a certain age or at some point in life thinks some crazy shit, right? It could be a passing thought, and it could be like, I want to kill this person, or I should rob this thing, or and some people think about, self-harm in ways that are like real thoughts that occur in their mind. And my fear with that is that I don't know if you've taken Psychology 101 or even like read the syllabus, we know that repression doesn't normally end up having great long-term effects. So I just worry that like if people, especially young people, I feel like can't acknowledge they can have non-normal or even like violent, dangerous thoughts, but have that not be indicative of them being a violent or dangerous person, that could lead to some weird mental health stuff long-term.
Yeah, there was a really cool radio lab about this guy was having very obsessive thoughts about like killing his wife. And it turns out this is not, it happens with people with OCD. And it's not the case that they actually want to do it, but it's that they're so horrified that they have the thought that they just obsess about it's like, don't think about an elephant. You're forced to think about an elephant. So, the psychologists on the program were talking about how people who are very moral and very good, have these very horrible thoughts and fixate on them in very specific ways with knives and stuff, only because they're so horrified about it. Now, that's a little bit different than people with actual sort of like thoughts about pedophilia. But yeah, it's interesting. Let's go on to, here's an email from Ryan. Hey, Wisecrack. Been a huge fan for a couple of years now. Love seeing this channel grow. From Culture Binge number 13, my thoughts on the topic of Pornhub offering a therapy service for porn addicts. I agree that the good intentions of discussing that addiction and valuable health advice is important to help people, but I think a porn site is far from the ideal place for that type of therapy because, like Serby and Alex surmised, it could be viewed as comparable to hosting an AA meeting in a liquor store or a gambler addiction meeting in a casino. I would feel it would just act as an even more egregious temptation to trigger you, akin to being surrounded by alcohol or gambling while making an effort to abstain from that vice. well-meaning, but not a good location for it. Maybe Pornhub could create another site for this good intention. That way, the Vice and 8 aren't in the same room together. I don't know, just a thought. Please continue this segment. I'm excited to listen every time a new one drops. And that's the way the news goes. Peace.
I had something like that happen recently, the Pornhub therapy example.
Where you received psychiatric services for your porn addiction?
No, but okay. So I host this one comedy show at a theater in Los Angeles. And it's a theater that also rents space out late at night, which I learned recently for AA meetings. But at comedy shows, you often have alcohol there. So the last one we hosted, it was like a different time than we're normally at. So me and my co-host were like hanging out. A few people were there. And there was like a lot of open beers like in the theater and like a 30-pack of Miller Lite or something. And these two people walked in and they're like, is this where the meeting is? And then like clicked. Oh, no. And we were like, oh my God, like these people are here for AA and we're just hanging out and there's beers everywhere. And sometimes people like will leave a beer in the theater. So we went through and got them. But then it like struck me. I mean, it's not my fault, but God, the people that organize bookings at this theater should maybe be more cognizant of stuff like that. But I felt very guilty. And it felt like basically I was like a porn website that was using web space before a therapeutic service took over.
Yeah, you're just a bad person.
That's the main takeaway.
There was like somebody who opened a donut shop next to like a Weight Watchers store or something. And it was very sad. I feel bad for the AA people. And you know, like that smell, like if you don't drink alcohol, like you really smell the alcohol in the room.
And it was like, it was a hot day. You could definitely smell it. I felt horrible and I couldn't stop thinking about it for about 2 days. But now I don't care. So it doesn't matter. Sorry, that was me. I'm kidding.
All right. We got one last one. Oh, sorry. I already talked about this one. That actually wraps up the show for today, but I want people to follow you all on the internet. Are you followable on the internet, Michael Burns, Dr. Hot and Sweaty?
Yeah, Dr. Hot and Sweaty. That's my government name. My fake online name is Michael O. Burns. I think that's what I am on the Instagram. So, but if you at me and then you direct message me and say Dr. Hot and Sweaty, I'll send you a gift certificate for a hot and ready Little Caesars pizza. It's sort of co-branding deal I have with Little Caesars. I'm happy to formally announce it.
Serby?
I would love to be friends with all of you online. You can tweet me. My username is @SurreyPatel22.
I'm at Wisecrack Alec. I also want to tell everyone that links to some of the things we're talking about are in the description. I also want to give a big shout out. Dude Abides is always donating, but there's other people that I didn't have time to shout out. There is Mihal, who says, greetings from Romania. That's super cool that people listen to us in other places. Dude Abide during astrology said, astrology, Libra in the house. And then there is George, who says watermelon-sized grapes or grape-sized watermelons. I don't understand that one. So we'll have to. I'm sorry that I'm not in the know about what the kids are talking about. But
watermelon-sized grapes.
Yeah, what about them?
You're just picking an answer.
Which one would you prefer?
Oh, grape-sized watermelons, obviously.
Yeah, the latter grape-sized watermelons for sure. Yeah,
that's the objective answer. Sorry. So. Thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful day. If you like this podcast, leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps other people discover us. It's very important. We'll see you again next week.